Leave it to Steven Soderbergh to make a movie with a camera that has never been used to make a movie before. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably seen the trailers for Presence, or you've already seen the movie, and you thought to yourself, how the hell did they shoot this? Well, you came to the right place, because I'm the guy with just enough free time to go down some rabbit holes, and boy did I ever go down a rabbit hole on this one, which ultimately led to me talking to the cast of the damn movie and getting Sony to send me the exact same camera that Steven Soderbergh used to shoot Presence. What I've always loved about Steven Soderbergh is not only are his films incredibly smart, cinematic, and entertaining, but it's the way that he makes his films that I find the most fascinating. This is a guy that basically pioneered independent filmmaking. He directs, shoots, and edits all of his movies.
This is cowboy shit.
But out of all of the ways that Steven Soderbergh has experimented with the format of how to make a movie, I think Presence is my favorite out of all of them. Because it basically legitimizes the ethos that I've been trying to teach you guys on this channel for a very long time. Presence is a great, simple story executed in a really interesting way with a shoestring budget, and they use tech and gear that nearly all of us have access to. This is a ghost story shot entirely from the POV of the ghost. And I mean that literally. It's all the perspective of a presence in the house. It's really interesting. All the scenes play out in these really long takes, and you're basically a quiet observer in the room. You float around and sweep through the house, and the cool thing is it never really defies logic, and this isn't really getting into spoilers, but it's pretty grounded. It really is as simple as Steven Soderbergh running around with a gimbal and this camera, the Sony A9 III. This is a camera that costs nearly 10 times less than most cinema cameras used in Hollywood. This is a camera that most people would use to shoot weddings. Here's what the cast had to say when they first saw this thing.
I never questioned it because I was like, well, Steven knows what he's doing. So I was like, yeah.
Now, Steven paired this camera with a 14mm lens and a gimbal. Not this exact setup that I have, but very, very similar. And I'm sure at this point you're thinking, well, why the A9 III? There's plenty of full-frame mirrorless cameras now. Why not shoot it on the FX3, the same camera they used to shoot The Creator? Well, the A9 III is actually pretty unique because it's the first full-frame mirrorless camera that's ever had a global shutter. Now, I'm not particularly good at this kind of stuff, so here's Gerald Undone explaining what a global shutter is while eating a banana.
So conventionally, when a camera captures an image, it doesn't do so all at once. It scans through the image line by line, usually from top to bottom, and that's what creates the rolling shutter effect, because there'll be a time delay between when it scanned the top line to when it scans the bottom line, and that can create sort of a skewing or wobble effect in your image. Global shutter, on the other hand, does indeed capture all the pixels at once. So there's no time delay from the top to the bottom, and you don't have any of those rolling shutter effects. You know, a line will be perfect. Something or other.
Essentially, the A9 III was the perfect camera for Steven's little experiment. Because he's running around the house and he's whipping and panning, any added distortions or warping would have been incredibly distracting to the audience. This setup allowed him to smoothly glide around the house and create a truly otherworldly perspective without getting tired, because this is a very light kit. Which is cool because it basically made him another actor in the cast playing the main character.
It kind of played almost like as a dance between us and Steven. He was moving the camera to whatever he wanted to watch within the scene. So like opposed to like a stationary like single cam type shoot in like a studio setting, like it really kind of felt like we were living out the scenes within the house.
But it wasn't just spontaneous or reactionary movements. There was a lot of planning that went into making this movie, and it was challenging to shoot.
Well, Steven actually had to go through and kind of like plan out each scene as the presence. So that's his actor mind kind of kicking in and him saying like, oh no, I wouldn't look left yet, because the presence wouldn't know to look left. Steven knows when to look left, the presence doesn't.
There were times, unfortunately, you know, we would rehearse, but there would be times I'd get well into a take and make a mistake. I would anticipate somebody moving as opposed to having like a little bit of lag, which happens when you don't know that somebody's gonna move. I'd have to go, cut, sorry, you know, the ghost screwed up.
Here's where it gets really cool. In order to have this freedom of movement with the cast and the camera, the lighting had to be incredibly minimal.
What you see in the house was basically the lighting. And they kind of just had these like super high powered bulbs that they had like complete control over the actual brightness, the color.
And this is probably my favorite aspect of how Presence was made. Yes, it's cool that they shot on this camera, but I absolutely love how this movie was lit. I made an entire video essay about how lamps are probably the definitive reason of why a movie looks good or bad. Movies with lamps look good, movies without lamps usually look bad. And Presence is a primo lamp movie. And it just proves that you do not need a whole bunch of artificial lights to make a movie look cinematic. In fact, I think because it has less artificial lights, it looks more cinematic. And I'm gonna prove that to you right after this quick break from today's sponsor, Audio.
Do you ever find yourself in a creative block? Maybe you have an idea, but you just can't seem to find a way to start? This happens to me all the time. And you know how I almost always get out of it? I listen to music. For me, music is at the core of everything that I make. Ever since I was a little kid, I have been listening to and playing music. So when I got more interested in making films, music is where I start. And that's why I use Audio, because they have made finding great music easier than ever before. With their Hans AI feature, you can literally just type in what you're looking for. And you can get crazy with this. Maybe you want something to sound like Gladiator. And Audio just released their Pro mobile app, which is exactly how I use Audio. Because it's not just about finding music, it's about creating moments that inspire your creative projects. And the mobile app lets me find those ideas anywhere at any time. If you want to try all this for yourself, use the code PatrickT at checkout and get 70% off your first year of Audio Pro. The link is in the description. That means you're going to get unlimited sound effects, music, and Hans AI for just $59. It's sponsors like Audio and people like you that let me keep making videos like this, so thank you. Hit that link in the description. Let's get back to the video.
Look, I have pretty much everything Steven Soderbergh had when he made Presence. I've got the camera, I've got the gimbal, I've got a whole bunch of lamps, and I've got a pretty decent looking condo. I think I can do this. So with no artificial lights, just the gimbal, the camera, and some lamps, here's a quick little test scene of me trying to pull off the look of Presence. Was it perfect? No, but I think it's pretty damn close, right? Now just imagine if I had a bit more time, a bit more crew, a bit more money, and a really great script, I'd have a movie. The look is like 10%, and it's so easy now to make things look good. The rest of it, the 90%, is the hardest part. It's a really good story, it's great actors, finding good locations, and just having the tenacity to pull the damn thing off. But ultimately, I think this movie is Soderbergh proving a point. He's kind of reinventing what a movie can even be. You gotta remember that movies are still a young medium. And what I mean by that is we can do whatever we want. We can reinvent the format. We can try new things. We can experiment. Soderbergh has made traditional films. He can keep making traditional films. In fact, in like a month or two, he's coming out with a whole other movie that by all accounts from what I've seen is a much more traditional, straight to the point spy thriller than this POV experimental horror movie. But he got it out of his system and he tried something, and now he's inspired folks like me to do stuff like that. In fact, I have my own short film that was loosely inspired by seeing Presence at TIFF. If you haven't seen it yet, it's called Flashlight. I'm extremely proud of it. It's on the second channel where we're doing a lot of fun stuff. So make sure you're subscribed to the second channel as well. But Flashlight is a POV horror movie that I shot on a wide angle lens from the perspective of a flashlight. And I really want to turn this thing into a feature. I really want to challenge what a traditional film can even be. Maybe it is just a guy with a flashlight walking around for 2 hours. Who knows? But I could do it. And from talking with the cast, it seems like Steven was trying to instill that thinking even into his young cast.
He is so excited and just so invested in the future of filmmaking and the idea that anybody can do it now. And that is constantly what he is promoting. He's just like, if you have, write like pen, paper, laptop, Google Docs, just like open it up, start writing, and then start shooting it, because you have phones. And yes, you're not going to have like the coolest sets, but maybe you will. Maybe you go out and you find and you adventure and you find, you make it work. Like it's bringing it, I feel like at a time when CGI is so, abundant in the world, and it's like creating these fantasy worlds, a lot of independent filmmakers are going back to what we can do practically. And so I feel like in that sense, he is sort of encouraging the more practical, like, kind of just DIY, figure it out. Like that is what filmmaking is.
Presence is one of my favorite films of the year. I think it's really beautifully made. And it's a film that is so much more than its shtick. It's so much more than its gimmick of being a POV perspective. It's a deeply engaging family drama that is incredibly thrilling, all packaged up in a very high concept, stylish experiment. Make sure you check out my short film Flashlight if you haven't already. Link is in the description. Thank you to Audio for sponsoring this video. Thank you to Neon, the studio, for letting me chat with the cast. And thank you to Sony for letting me use this A9 III. But I think that's it for me. If you have any questions or comments about this video, let me know. But otherwise, you will see or hear me next time I feel like making a video. Cheers.
Run to the front door. Run to the front door. Yeah.